I'm Joanne Gore, a B2B marketer who's passionate about print and chief marketing advisor at Taktiful. Today, we're talking about color. In 2020, Pantone, a standardized color matching system used in various industries for consistent and accurate communication of colors, announced the release of a new color matching system called Pantone Connect, which includes a plugin for Adobe Creative Cloud. This plugin allows designers to access Pantone colors directly from the Adobe software without the need for a separate Pantone software subscription. Adobe responded by announcing that they would be discontinuing support for the Pantone Plus series, a collection of Pantone colors that were previously included in Adobe software. Adobe argued that the Pantone Plus series was outdated and that their own color system, Adobe Color, provided a more up-to-date and flexible solution for designers. The situation between Adobe and Pantone is still evolving, but it is clear that there is some competition and tension between the two companies. Despite this, many designers continue to use both Adobe and Pantone products in their work, as each company provides unique and valuable tools for design and printing. Today, I'm joined by Matt Redbear, Taktiful's creative director and chief design consultant. He is no stranger to the realm of graphic arts, from old school film and plate analog techniques to today's modern digital methods in production. He uses his experience to forge new ideas against the backdrop of the pre-digital era. His passion for imaging spans over 42 years, going all the way back to 1980 in the field of photographic production technology, photo lab management, and professional photography for both studio and on-location shoots. Welcome, Matt, to the Haptic Edge.
Hi, Joanne.
Let's dive right in.
Okay.
How is the Pantone and Adobe situation impacting graphic designers like you and their work?
Talk about the proverbial pulling the carpet out from underneath your feet. It's one of those things where you just get so used to the way that you've done things, and it's become such an efficient system, and it was also built in. And then all around August of 2022, what year is this? You open up Adobe InDesign and go to your color books and go to the swatches, and boom, they're just not there. So everything that you were used to using and assigning a spot color in your design work was suddenly gone. And that's how your brain was built around everything. And now suddenly, what do you do?
I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine that feeling of going in and everything being gone. What was your first reaction? Like, what thoughts ran through your head when that happened to you?
I was a little upset because it's like, well, now what do I do? I mean, I had to actually dig back into my brain because I've been in this system for a long time, and we've learned a lot along the way. But it's like, oh, well, you can build a swatch. You can go back to using RGB color space, CMYK color space, if nothing else, for a reference for building a new swatch as a spot color. And then when you use that swatch in your design work, when it goes to pre-press, service bureau, whatever, then they do what's called an alias, an ink alias, where you just name it something that they understand that's going to be red 185, and then they assign the actual swatch for red 185, because print shops still need, pre-press departments still need to have access to these colors. Pay for them or not, they still have to have them, and they're usually built into their RIP software. If they have Fiery, it's in there, so they do have access to those swatches still.
So let's back this up a little bit. Why does this matter so much? Explain to those who are watching and listening, what is the whole purpose of this color matching system? And again, we're going to be throwing out acronyms like RGB and CMYK and PMS and RIPS and whatnot. I can tell you now, RGB is red, green, blue for
Mm-hmm.
monitors. CMYK is cyan, magenta, yellow, black. That's how
Mm-hmm.
presses work. Um, PMS, Pantone Matching System. This is
Mm-hmm.
what we're talking about, the Pantone system. There's other acronyms that are going to pop up. I will do my best to fill in what they mean, but we're going to apologize in advance because we're going to geek out a little bit on some graphic terminology. I'm a child of, I was a graphic designer back in the 80s as well. So I feel the pain to some degree, Matt. And again, if there's acronyms, if there's anything you don't get, please reach out to us. We're happy to have those conversations with you and explain a little further what all of this means and why it matters. Just reach out to the folks in the team at Taktiful. But going back to what I started, Matt, why does this matter so much? Why is everyone just so a flutter about what's going on?
Well, the Pantone matching system, PMS, is originally built around mixing ink, mixing a specific ink color. We have different color spaces. We have CMYK, which is cyan, magenta, yellow, black. Those combinations of colors produce 16,000 colors on a press. You have the RGB color space, which is used for projection monitors, your laptop monitor, whatever. It's red, green, blue. It's additive. Uh, CMYK is subtractive. They're just different color models to basically assign colors and pixels or dots on a page. And then there's Pantone, which is mixing a specific color called a spot color. And so for a certain color, it's going to have an ink formula for how to mix that color. And beyond that, Pantone developed the color bridge system, which if you were to look at a specific swatch, you could see that if I'm using, am I right side up there?
Yep, we're good.
Okay.
Love it. Awesome.
Okay. So it's showing you the spot color and how it breaks down to CMYK. And not only that, but how it prints in CMYK. And CMYK is offset presses, anything that uses CMYK plates, litho, flexo, all those processes generally use CMYK. When you
What about
have
digital presses? Do they use CMYK?
Yes, they do. But there are some that are more of a hybrid. Some actually use an RGB color space, and they can get closer to millions of colors rather than the limited 16,000 colors you can get with the CMYK color space. So there's hybrids. There's some that use inkjet. There's some that transfer plate. Use a liquid ink. Some use dry toner. There's all kinds of systems out there.
Wow.
For extended gamut or the plain gamut for CMYK, which is 16,000 colors, which is, in my opinion, quite limiting. But that's what you're used to seeing every day, right?
Mm-hmm. So again, why does it matter? Why is there such an uproar over this? Who really pays attention to that color?
Well, in the end, it's all the consumer. It's how it impacts marketing. It's how it impacts the consumer. If I want a specific PMS color, and now, because that's my brand, that's the color on my logo, that's the color on my box. Those are the colors that my design team have chosen. Now, how am I going to replicate that color? Of course, a large commercial print shop is still going to buy the licensing from Pantone to access those colors on every one of the devices in-house. And for a small shop such as this one that I work in, day job, it comes resident in the RIP software, the Fiery RIP, which is, do you want me to explain RIP?
No, that's okay. Let's stick to color.
Okay.
So if what I'm hearing is correct, it's up to the brand. There's a reason why we say Coca-Cola Red, because that red was developed specifically for Coca-Cola.
Mhm.
Presumably, that red is not used anywhere else. If I may be wrong, you may know
It
the
is
answer. I
it is
believe
trademarked.
it's trademarked, right?
They have
Nobody
their
else
own
can use it.
swatch. They have
It's
their
like
own.
the Colonel Sanders secret recipe, right? That is
Exactly.
their color and nobody else.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so, what happens to them now? Are do they have to change their color? Do they have to come up with a new way to
Nope.
formulate it? What
Nope.
happens?
Nope. It's their color, and that's just what everybody that they operate with, whether it's who prints their cans, does their backlit signage, uh, prints on paper for media, whatever gets printed, regardless of the substrate, they have to match that color. They have to use that color swatch. So they need to have either access to the swatches, which may or may not be owned by Pantone. I mean, just because it's Coca-Cola Red doesn't mean that it's in the Pantone swatch book.
Fair
Okay.
enough. Yeah.
I can go out and create you, Joanne, any spot swatch color you want and name it whatever you want. And you can trademark that color and use it any way that you want to. And then it would be developed with some kind of formulary so that it could actually be mixed to ink and used in a very consistent manner.
Wow. So, in your opinion, what steps can Pantone and Adobe take to address the concerns and improve the products, the experience for designers? You've been in this industry a long time. As painful as it was to be faced with, holy crap, it's all gone. You at least have the experience and the expertise to dig into your toolkit and say, okay, I'm going to do this
Mm-hmm.
next. But I have to imagine there are a lot of newer designers struggling to figure out, holy crap, what do I do next? So
Okay.
what are some ways that designers can overcome what's happening until the dust settles and Pantone and Adobe again, this hasn't ended. This is going on.
Mm-hmm.
There are still conversations happening, but yet in the real world, designers, brands, creatives still need to reproduce color
Yeah. So
in the brand's color.
the logical response would be to buy the licensing from Pantone to access their color swatches. So it's usually a monthly subscription. They kind of freaked people out with that because it was going to be so much per month, and then it was so much more per month, and then it was even so much more per month, and it's per month. So to be able to assign those swatches in your software, you're on a monthly subscription. If you have the volume, that's all just completely justifiable. The other thing too is if you're maybe a small shop and you need to have access to those swatches to design a project, if your customer is requiring you to use a specific swatch, such as a PMS swatch or whatever, it's probably going to come down to being no different than saying, we need you to use this specific font, and you need to get this font one way or another. You need to buy it. We need to buy it and give it to you to use for that project and that project only. There's licensing restrictions involved in all that. But it's just down to accessibility. And if you really are old school, you're going to know as a designer that the print shop that you're using will have access to Pantone.